The KUDZUKIAN Network presents Riffin on Jazz with your host, Howard Robertson and Malvin Massey.
Sonny Rollins.
You got to improve, man. You got Coltrane and Ornette Coleman and these boys coming up. You better get your stuff together.
Mr. Miles Davis.
White people are funny. In America, they thought that I just woke up one morning and had the blues and started playing the trumpet. But it don't go like that, and you can't explain that to them.
Miles was able to make something that was wrong into something that was right.
Now they know. I'm not an accident.
Riffin on Jazz.
Welcome back. This is Riffin on Jazz. I'm Malvin Massey.
And I'm Howard Robertson.
And Riffin on Jazz is your weekly visit with friends, talking about this music that we love.
That classic African-American art form called jazz.
Howard Robertson.
What's up, Malvin Massey? My man. How you been?
I'm good.
Good. Today, we are riffing on Brother Ray, the jazz genius of one Ray Charles Robinson.
Yeah.
And man, we got a great show. I love these kind of shows, Malvin. Yeah. We are going to start out with an on fire cut called Hot Rod, and y'all check this out.
You won't believe what Ray's playing.
Welcome back to Riffin on Jazz. Lightning fast licks.
Yeah. And you don't know what Ray Charles is playing.
Okay, so school everybody. on who those dynamic horn players were.
Okay, on the baritone saxophone,
Okay,
that was Benny Crawford, a.k.a. Hank Crawford.
Hank Crawford, Memphis's own.
On the tenor saxophone, that was David Fathead Newman.
Fathead Newman.
And on the alto saxophone, that was Ray Charles.
Man.
Didn't know he played alto, and especially didn't know he played it like that.
Yes. Ray Charles was a multi-instrumentalist, and we are going to take a deep dive into the genius. We say the jazz genius of Ray Charles, and we're going to be focusing a lot on jazz, yes, as a genre. But you guys will recall from the Aretha Franklin show that we mentioned Ray Charles in terms of a parallel between Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin as far as their prolific,
how talented they were,
how
and
prolific
how much
they were,
came out with,
particularly in terms of indigenously American music.
Yeah.
And
rather than to pigeonhole either one of them into one genre or the other.
And the parallels are phenomenal, beginning with this reality. You know what Ray Charles' mama's name was?
Aretha.
How about that? So we're going to get into Ray Charles, like I said, in depth. But before we do that, we're going to get into a cut.
Yeah, now this is from the same CD. The CD is Ray Charles Newport,
Okay.
1958.
Okay, what's the name of this, Malvin?
Sherry.
We're still riffing.
Sherry by Ray Charles.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's from
nice.
the Newport. Ray Charles at Newport, 1958.
Newport, Rhode Island, baby.
The live album is July 5th, 1958.
Mm-hmm.
You were in Newport this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the granddaddy of all jazz festivals. I highly recommend it based on the ambiance of it. It is right there on the bay, and it's very intimate. It's very intimate. It's not like you're going to be miles away from the stage, and I highly, highly recommend it.
Well,
it's going to be, get your walking shoes on because it's going to be a hike.
Well, this gig in 58 was Ray Charles playing keyboards, doing the vocals, playing the alto sax. It was Marcus Belgrave on the trumpet, Lee Harver on the trumpet, David Fathead Newman on tenor, Benny Crawford on baritone, we know him as Hank, Edgar Willis on the bass, Richie Goldberg on drums, Marjorie Hendricks on vocals with the Rayettes.
So we're talking about Ray Charles. Ray Charles was born, Ray Charles Robinson, in 1930 in a place in Georgia that I know how to pronounce. It is spelled Albany. So pronounce that, Malvin.
Albany, Albany.
Oh, you know, somebody told you.
What is it?
Yeah, they pronounce it Albany.
Albany. Yeah.
Albany. Not Albany. But anyway, so that's what he was. That's where he was born, to a young teenage mother named Aretha, and he was blind. He started going blind when he was 5 years old, and by the time he was 7, he was completely blind.
Glaucoma.
Yeah, and in a very interesting interview with Dick Cavett, he talks about his blindness, and listen to what he says about if he was ever given the opportunity to see.
If you were to say to me, look, I can wave a wand and you can see right now, and it's got to be a forever thing, I might would turn it down. If you were to say to me, well, I can wave it and you can see for maybe a day, I might accept that. Only because there are a couple of things that maybe I would like to see once, or just so that I really would know for what's really happening, that I haven't seen. Yeah, because as I said, that I've seen the stars and the moon and the sun, and I remember my mother, and so I think basically I would probably like to see, just for once, because I see them anyway all the time, like my kids, for instance, just to physically see them. But actually, I'm not all that hung up about seeing things, because I do everything I want to do. I go everywhere I want to go, and with some of the news I hear about today, there's some things I just absolutely don't want to see, man. I feel sorry for you guys who have to put up with it,
Ray Charles Robinson.
Yeah, cocktail hour set that
That's
time.
exactly. That was nice. That was nice. Now, did you check out the interview?
Yeah, that's interesting to
Isn't
say
that
the
very
least.
interesting?
That's like, yeah.
If you could wave a magic wand and restore his sight, he said, cool, for about 2 days.
Yeah, just for a little while, just to
for a
see
little
some
while.
things that I haven't seen.
And you know why I think that is, Malvin? I think that's because the probably the images in his mind are so beautiful and vivid that he doesn't want to spoil them.
He doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to.
Yeah, it's a human thing. If you lose one sense, the others are enhanced.
Kicks in. Yeah. Listen, we are drinking tonight. They make me drink, y'all. We are drinking something called Banter. It is a red wine from California. So
It's got real cool
it's very good too.
face on it too.
So
Yeah.
with these glasses full of banter, we're gonna lift libations to life, love, and jazz. And we also want to remind you to be sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast provider. Plus, you can get us instantly by texting RIFF, R-I-F-F, to 72000. That's 72,000. Text RIFF to 72,000 and get everything we got. We're going to be back with more Riffin on Jazz after this.
Putting the riff in yo jazz. It's Riffin on Jazz.
We're riffing on jazz.
Grind fed.
I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack.
So we're going to be interviewing business owners about their journey. What made them leave their 9-to-5 and just go out and create their own brand?
I think sometimes we overplan things and that can kind of cause a delay or setback. But I would definitely say dive in, get your name started, get your website up, get your business cards.
Grind fed.
Sponsored by Epicenter, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Play, and many of your podcast providers.
Grind fed.
KUDZUKIAN.
Riffin is what we do. We're riffin' on jazz.
Welcome back to Riffin' on Jazz. We are riffing on Brother Ray, the jazz genius of Ray Charles. And one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, that parallels this show to the previous show that we did on Aretha Franklin is how organically American and rich in American music that Ray Charles as well as Aretha Franklin was. And Ray, in terms of training, now Aretha, we can't track that to formal training, but Ray did have some formal training from an older gentleman who we don't know what his name was or whatever, but we do know that he was a stride pianist
player,
he was a stride player who could also had an appreciation and a gift to playing and capability of playing the classics.
Yeah.
So
plus the fact that when he went to school in Florida, he learned Beethoven and Bach. He learned how to play classic music.
He left home to go to this special school for the blind, and he received some training there. But he started getting the training from this older fella before he left Florida, before he left home. So he and influences. He'd met Quincy Jones at a very early age, and they fostered a relationship that lasted through the years.
Until Ray passed away, as a matter of fact.
That's exactly right. But tell him who he wanted to be like. Who Ray Charles wanted to be like.
He said he wanted to be like Nat Cole. He said that was his influence.
Why?
He said he was a perfect musician or something like that.
Right.
There was something
and
like that
he was more impressed with Nat Cole's playing than he was his singing.
Yeah, he wanted to play like Nat Cole.
That's what he said. Like Nat Cole.
Speaking of playing, so that one was from the CD that he did with Milt Jackson. He did a couple of CDs with Milt Jackson. And that was one called Soul Brothers, Soul Meeting. And it was recorded in 1957. You know, we all Milt Jackson and the Vibes.
Right.
Bags himself.
Right.
They were great contemporaries, and they worked together a lot even after they did those two.
So that's what we've got coming up. Soul Meeting. And Ray is playing what? Is he playing piano on this one?
He's playing the piano on this one.
Okay. Soul Meeting.
Milt Jackson on Vibes.
Riffin.
Once again, Ray Charles and Milt Jackson on bags himself.
That's nice. That was nice. That was nice.
Soul meeting, yeah.
You know, the musician that became Ray Charles was somebody who earlier influences were poured into him. You know, I mentioned that he was friends with Quincy Jones, but he and Quincy Jones were contemporaries. Yeah. Prior to Quincy Jones, he had been influenced by Nat King Cole. He had been influenced musically by country. Growing up in the South, in Georgia, he had heard country all his life, as well as blues and jazz and rhythm and blues. And so he was influenced by artists like Louis Jordan and Charles Brown. And you recall in the Ray Charles movie, when he first went into the studio, Ahmet,
Aragon Ahmet.
Yeah. He told him he was singing and playing like Charles Brown. And he said, "Man, I don't need you to be Charles Brown. Charles Brown is Charles Brown. Yeah. You know, I need you to be you. You do you." And so that I thought that was very, very interesting in terms of that. Yeah. We've got
Charles Brown, by the way. That's "Merry Christmas, Baby."
That's I remember him. It's coming up. One of my favorites. Yeah. But we've got Ray Charles expressing himself on a lot of the things that were key to his life in terms of influences. Blindness, you've already heard. This is an interview that he did, again, with Dick Cavett about drugs. We all know that he had a bout with drugs, including hospitalization and institutionalization in terms of that to kick the habit. And check out his very candid remarks about drugs.
I know. I think that drugs as such, as people think of it, everything's a drug, really. If anything that makes your body, or try to make your body do certain things is a drug. But I say that the so-called drugs, as we know it as heroin and stuff like that, the heavy drug, I think it's very, very bad, and I certainly should know, because first of all, I think that a human being should always be in total control of himself. So alcohol is a drug too. So anytime that you monkeying around with anything that will gain control of your body, which means that alcohol can do that, the so-called heroin can do that, then of course you're asking for trouble, because you're not your own keeper, and I think it's very, very bad to monkey around, and especially with young people. See, the youngsters, it's very bad. I hear about New York with kids 10, 12 years old with overdose. That's awful, very bad.
Moanin'. Ray Charles. That was one of my hype songs, Malvin, when I was a kid, before swimming lessons during the summer. Get me a bowl of cereal, hook up Moanin', and I'd be ready, Jack. I was ready. I was ready for the pool, ready for the water. We're riffing on Brother Ray Charles.
The jazz genius of Ray Charles.
That's exactly right.
Everybody thought it was pretty cool that we mentioned that Aretha Franklin was not just an R&B singer, but Aretha Franklin was an all-around musician. I love what you said about it. She sang it all, but nobody knew she started off in jazz.
And Ray Charles is the male embodiment of the same dynamic, of the exact same dynamic. We are blessed to have a podcast that is that goes all over the planet, all over the world. And you guys are mighty, mighty kind to us in terms of your remarks and shouting us out and what you say about us on Facebook. And that includes some people that we'd like to shout out, including
Pato Goose from Matete, Mozambique.
Mr. Goose from Mozambique. Mickey Wall from Stockholm, Sweden.
And Erica Metcalf out of Louisville, Kentucky. And I didn't say Louisville, I said Louisville.
Robinson's going to get upset with you. That's their home turf, home territory. Yeah. And we want to remind you that be sure to check us out. It's all kind of ways that you can get us. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast provider. Plus, you can get us instantly by texting RIFF, R-I-F-F, to 72,000. We are riffing on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we will be back.
Riffin' on Jazz.
Keeping it real, right, and funky.
Mauricio Calvo, who happens to be the executive director of Latino Memphis. Welcome to Funky Politics, sir. How are you?
Great. Thank you. You're having as much trouble saying my name as I do saying KUDZUKIAN, so we're even.
Hey, look, I'm good on that.
Yeah. Reasonable people understand that a country is more than its leader. I mean, I love my home country, but I think people in Memphis need to count their blessings.
Funky Politics on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
You're listening to Riffin' on Jazz. Welcome back. This is Riffin' on Jazz, and we are riffing on Brother Ray, the jazz genius of Ray Charles.
That's right.
Oh, man, this cat really, it's like you said, he's a musician. He can play it all.
It's a treasure.
Everything that he played, he put his heart into it, his soul into it. And
his stamp on. You knew when you were listening to Ray Charles, either singing or absolutely singing. Right. Now, there were song stylists, and we talked about Nat King Cole being one of his influences. But you know what? He wasn't terribly impressed with Nat King Cole singing. Now, Nat King Cole was one of the most prolific sound or song stylists that there was. But Ray didn't stylize a song.
No.
You know.
He was about Nats playing the piano.
Yeah. But what Ray did to a song was grab it by the throat.
There was even, I love playing his national anthem that they used to do at the patriotic thing on DC.
America the Beautiful.
America the Beautiful.
Yeah.
And there was a little controversy about it because he put so much soul into it when
he
first
made it his. He always made it his. Always made it his. So we've got what coming up?
We were showing, right, by the way, we did Ray on alto sax, of course, on the piano. Moanin' was on the B3.
Right.
Then we're coming up with another one now. This was an old Horace Silver tune that we just love, and he's playing the piano again, but it tells a story about hard times.
Hard times.
My mother told me before she passed away, said, son, when I'm gone, don't forget to pray, 'cause there'll be hard times. Hard times, oh yeah. Who knows better than I? Well, I soon found out just what she meant when I had to pawn my clothes just to pay my rent. Talking about hard times, oh yeah. Who knows a woman better than I? Talking about hard times, you know those hard, yeah, Lord, who knows better than I? Yeah, Lord, yeah, one of these days there'll be no more sorrow. No more hard times. I say no more hard. Yeah, Lord, who knows? Yeah, Lord, better than I.
Hard times.
I love that song.
Yeah.
Horace Silver, of course. Horace Silver, we've already talked about how he had a knack for touching your heart with his music.
Yeah. And we're riffing on Brother Ray. So there are all kinds of accolades that have been paid to Ray Charles. One very, very interesting one is what Frank Sinatra said about him. Frank Sinatra called him the only true American genius.
That's a big compliment. Musical genius. Yeah, that's a big compliment from a cat like Frank Sinatra.
Coming from Frank Sinatra. I think we've heard the term genius tossed around a lot. People refer to Stevie Wonder as a genius. And I'm wondering, and what do you think about that? You think that blindness has anything, their ability to express themselves and overcome, what most consider a disability? You think that's got anything to do with the label of genius?
No, because there's too many young geniuses now with all the faculties and everything, but they're still. I think these are people who have overcome those difficulties, but I think what they do, the soul and the music that's in their hearts, is there anyway. If they could see, they'd still be doing the same thing.
Interesting.
And it would sound just like it sounds.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
I think it's part of the people. Yeah.
So we've got Ray coming up again doing a, I don't know if this is a standard, but this is a pretty familiar American tune. And
the thing is, again, we've shown him with quartets, with quintets, or playing the organ, playing the saxophone, playing the piano.
Yeah.
Okay, now this time we got him with a big band.
All right. Doing a standard. Deed I Do.
Do I want you? Oh my, do I say, honey, dee-da-do. Do I need you? Oh my, and do I? You know, honey, did I do? I'm glad that I'm the one who found you. That's why I'm always hanging around you. Oh, and do I love you? Oh my, and do I say, honey, did I do? That's why I'm always hanging around you. Oh, and do I love you? Oh my, and do I say, honey, dee-da-do. I said, honey, I'm talking about
Riffin on Brother Ray.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Did I do?
Great music coming up from this cat, man. The genius of Ray Charles is on that CD.
Right. That's exactly right. I was talking about influences being poured into him at an early age. One of those influences that I must mention was the great Oscar Peterson. And in that cut, and the one that's coming up, the one that's upcoming, listen for some traces of Oscar Peterson in this, in terms of full, rich, lush chords, which Oscar Peterson was. But he was, Ray was influenced by all of these. It's an amalgam of these influences, which I think is a beautiful thing.
Right on. As a matter of fact, I was saying that Dee-Da-Do, it's from Love Songs, special edition. The Genius of Ray Charles. That was done in 59.
59.
So we're heading for 1957.
Tell the people how old you were in 1959.
I was 8 years old.
Hey.
I was a little baby. Isn't that amazing? That time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun.
And when these cats were recording that music, I was a baby. That's a shame.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, this one from the great Ray Charles LP made 1957, another Horace Silver track. Because those cats, it's like Horace Silver's music was made for Ray Charles.
Right, right.
Yeah, so.
This one is called
Doodlin'.
Doodlin' and we're riffing.
Horace Silver music just matches Ray Charles.
That's cool. That's very cool. That's very, very cool. Yeah. We are riffing on Brother Ray, jazz genius of Ray Charles. As people assess where you are in terms of where an artist is in terms of comparisons to other artists, it's very, very interesting. Now, in 2002, Rolling Stone ranked Ray Charles number 10 on its list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. Number 10. Number 10, yeah. And then on their 100 greatest singers of all time, you know where he was ranked? The 100 greatest singers of all time.
Where'd they put him?
Number 2. And that's something.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? We're talking about Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone.
He was known, he was so great an artist that everybody knew his skill, his talent. That was beyond everything else.
Right, right. Great Billy Joel quote. He said, "It might be sacrilege, but I think Ray Charles was more important than Elvis Presley."
Ooh, don't say that in Memphis. So anyway, so we've done these things with him and different instruments and different settings and this and that. Here's one, this closeout is somebody invited Ray to be on the CD with him 4 years before he passed. Steve Touray, the trombone and shell player from the Saturday Night Live band.
Right.
Steve Touray put out a CD called In the Spur of the Moment. Got a track on here called Raised collard greens.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Raised collard greens.
It's Ray Charles on the piano, Steve Teray on trombone, Peter Washington on bass, Peter Teray on drums.
Beautiful thing. If we were cars, they might call us classics. If we were clothes, they might call us vintage. If we were cheese, Malvin, they might call us age. But we call ourselves blessed and highly, highly flavored to be able to bring you this music and insight every week. So I'm Howard Robertson.
And I'm Malvin Massey.
And we invite you to please have a safe, great, and productive week. And be back here next week for more Riffin on Jazz. Y'all take care.
Riffin on Jazz. Executive produced by KUDZUKIAN. Co-host by Howard Robertson and Malvin Massey Jr. Music curation by Howard and Malvin. And recorded at KUDZUKIAN Studios. Riffin on Jazz. Part of the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Oh.